All right, well, let's get this UV party started. So the first thing we want to do is clean up our scene a little bit. So here's our robot guy, and we've got all this junk in our outliner. So the image plane, of course, we don't need. That cube, we don't need that anymore. Old stuff, we've built it and we've saved it out. We don't need that anymore. This is all old stuff. And so there's our guy. There's an orphan node from a group. Get rid of that. And let's start just on the head alone. So I'm going to select everything else and hit H to hide it. And our head, we're going to ungroup it. Here's all our objects. And I'm going to delete the history. So we've created, remember, our got it mapped to single quote. Our marking menu that we made earlier. I'm going to freeze and reset that. So all the history is deleted. We can easily get that back when it comes time to rig it. We can put our pivots where they're needed, etc. I'll hit F to frame that, and I'd like to do as much as I can just to one side, mirrored across to the other side. So I'm going to select these objects and just delete them. And this bolt, I believe I have that as one object actually, so I'm going to delete these faces. So now I only have one half of it to deal with. I'll create the UVs for these parts, and then I will copy them and mirror them over. And then the UVs on the mirrored ones, I'll just need to reverse the normals on those UVs. So let's start with the head. I'm going to hide all the rest. Hit H to hide it. So this head is already looking pretty good. In the UV space, it's inherited pretty good UVs already from its birth. Oh, by the way, I do want to point out, notice here when we hit 3 and look at the sub D, what's happening here. See how these edges kind of curl. And again, it's like I mentioned earlier, because the boundary, those are locked down. There's going to be a little bit of stretching where that happens. So, okay, first thing we need to do is let this relax, because you can see the proportions are kind of those proportions that it was when first created. It's not the same anymore since we scaled it. And so this middle part, we could select the shell. I'm just right clicking in the space, and I can click there, and I can say, all right, I want that to sort of relax out. That's going to be under unfold. Now notice here this UV toolkit, it looks a whole lot like the modeling toolkit, right? Notice how similar that looks. It's laid out in the same way, and you can see that it's really well organized. I like it. It's new with Maya 2017 update 3. This isn't in an earlier version. But just like the modeling toolkit was really just a nicely laid out selection of tools from the more comprehensive list, which is across the top, same is true of the UV editor. This is where you can really find all the tools right across the top here. In fact, this is where you can bring it out. But having it in the UV editor is just a convenient place where they're just laid out a little more intuitively than here. Okay, so you can find these commands in either place. So I'm going to go here to unfold and use this function right here, optimize. So if we click that, notice that now it's more true proportions to what it was before. Remember too, if we hold down Shift and click optimize, and if you do that anywhere, holding down Shift and then just doing a normal left click, bring up these options, and these usually in one iteration is good. If something's really slow to relax, then you can increase the number of iterations and it will be more aggressive, but just be aware that's there. Right now we can see that this piece looks good within itself, but relative to the ends, right? Look, this length is much wider than that length. And if we select an edge, we can see it show up elsewhere. See that edge? We've got it selected. It shows up there. Another way we can look at that is clicking here. Look, and if we select all these edges, see they'll be color coded. See the blue match up with the blue, green with the green, orange with the orange. So that's shown up there. But we want these all to match in their size relative to each other. So for that, we'll go to this transform tool here. And what we want to match is their pixel density. In other words, pixels per unit. If we say, okay, we select the shell again, and we say get, we can get what the pixel density is. See, again, relative to this. So if we check that now to 512, right, and then we get it again, see, it's half the amount. This number is relative to this number. By the way, UV maps are typically either 512 or 1024 or 2048, and that's because it's efficient to store that amount of data in memory. Especially when you're using a real-time renderer, maps will be in that. Now, there's no requirement in Maya. You could have an image of any size or shape, and Maya will use it just fine. It's just an efficiency, right, for when you have real-time renders. So, all right, let's now, if we select this and get its pixel density, you'll see it's a larger number, right? More pixels are being used up. Could just set them all if we want, like this. We could say, oh, let's set them all to like 5. Okay, and now relative to each other, now they're all at 5, so they're all correct. This is a step that we can take right at the end after we've done UVs for the whole character. Then we can come back here and just set them all at once so that they'll be correct relative to each other, and then we can pack it. Or by packing, I mean we can arrange it all to fit within the UV space. Okay, this space here, 0 to 1, this is where the image will be. And this is where we'll want all of our parts to fit within, to be on top of that image. Now again, that's not entirely necessary. You could have your parts all over the place if you wanted. Like for some applications, I've actually had, like I'll model a couch, right? And then there'll be a sample of the fabric that may be in real world units. This would be maybe a foot by a foot worth of fabric, and an image that's tileable. And then all the UVs for the couch will be splayed out all over the place, and then this tile just repeats everywhere. But for us now, what I'd like to do is just get these to a part where they're all these parts have their boundaries set and they're all relaxed, and then we'll go back and combine them all together. Okay, so we got our head unwrapped, so let's hide that. Let's look. By the way, let's just put this all on one, so we're looking at polygons. We've got extra faces in here that we're never going to see. So I just want it to kind of roll up, and then I don't need all those faces under there. So now's a good time to just select one, hold down shift, double click. That will select our face loop, hit delete, and double click, and then all those faces that are connected together get selected. We'll hit delete, and this is all we need. Okay, and so now we just need to relax this out. We'll set boundaries right here and here, and that will relax it pretty good. And so if we go up here to the bonus tools, hopefully you've installed these from our first class. Okay, and we'll go down to UV editing, and then we'll go into auto unwrap UVs tool. Now these are not new tools. What all this does is aggregate or bring together a bunch of tools that already exist in Maya, but we'll run them in a sequence to make it faster for us. Okay, so we'll create checker shader just so you can see the effect of that. So with this object selected, see that's selected, we'll say enter tool, Okay, and now let me move this away. We're not seeing all the buttons we need to, and that could be solved as soon as I open this up. So now there's room for those buttons. So now I'm going to double click here. Notice they're in red. Hold down Shift, double click. Okay, and I'm introducing new boundaries, so I'll say, okay, add those as borders. You can see they're bold now. And now let's hit continue. And see, it's already, oh, what's going on here? Oh, well, there you go. You first punch in the fight. You can see it's going to make me save this out. Something happened. Okay, through the miracle of television, we're back. So it killed Maya, and I had to read the scene back in. So right now we're looking at the map that's on there. You'll see this if you press 6. If you press 5, you'll just get the regular shader, and then you can see here that where it's showing up here. Now here I'm hitting a bunch of keys. I was hitting 5. There's hotkeys for everything, but if you go through, like here, you can show the boundaries, show the grid. This will show the compression, right, where it's blue. It's a little bit small, and this is where it's a little bit spread out, a little wide. This is where it's a little compressed, like it's compressed here more than in 3D. Here it's spread out more than in 3D. Okay, and then this is showing whether it's front facing or back. Okay, we could take, for instance, these faces, and we could, if we want to say mesh display reverse, right? And then those are showing up now. They're not selected, but they're showing up as red because now they're backwards. Okay, that's what this shows. Like blue is front facing and red is back facing. Again, I hope you took a look at that YouTube video that I mentioned, and they'll go through this stuff in more depth. But look, you can use here selection constraints if you want to, and you can say, okay, I only want to be able to select back facing, right? And so now, look, it only selected those back facing faces because I put that constraint on. And I could just come up here and say, all right, now reverse those. Now they're front facing again. Okay, so that's good for the eyelid. Now let's bring up the other stuff. Hit H. Okay, those, notice too now that we've got these different colors showing up, and they're showing up here. This can have more than one node, right? Or mode, I should say. So if I hold down Shift and click on that, you can see it could be changed to multicolor, which I was surprised. I don't know how that got started. Or front and back facing. By default, it's at front and back facing. But multicolor, you can set it there, and that will set it so that the faces are the same color in both views. So I'll turn that off. And let's pick now the bottom lid and do the exact same thing. Okay, you've seen me do that, so I just did the same thing again. Now let's look at this front face. Create planar. Z, project. Alright, so that will create it just from the front. That one's done. Okay, here's the brow. Back to bonus tools. Auto unwrap. Okay, and we will enter that tool again. Call that one done. Then let's go to, let's start naming these. Bolt. Do the eye. So there's the front of the eye. We could, okay, we'll add those as borders, and then we'll say continue. Right, take a look. Yeah, that looks good. Say done. With that active, I will say enter tool, and I will select, oh, it's already on the edges, and I'll select that and this and this. Okay, I'll say add those as borders, continue, done. Okay, so let's see, there they are. Now for some reason the face is not showing up. Well, then the thing to do is just select just these faces, right, and we'll project onto those. So we'll just say, all right, create planer, and this time we'll have it go in the x-axis and just hit apply. See, now they're showing up there, and we can scale them down to something like that. Remember, at the end we're going to give them all the same textile density, so now we can just get close. We don't have to make it exact at this point. Edit group right here, Control G is your hotkey for that. I'll put them in there and I'll call this head. Okay, and then we'll go on to the next thing. Let's just do the whole body in one go. Let's see, we'll select object mode. Okay, get those. Those things are all together, so let's hide these. And here, sometimes I just like to group and then ungroup just to change up the order here. So I'll just say group and ungroup. Okay, and now it's all kind of in the bottom. And let's hit 1 to get it back to polygons. Okay, and we will, with that object active, we'll enter the tool. And then we'll say continue. Okay, and what have we got here? We have that, and strangely enough, these faces are not showing up. See? Maya, oh Maya. One thing we could try is to enter the tool again. Okay, and then maybe we'll try one of these other unfolds. So I'm going to make that same selection. Okay, so you noticed I just changed to the legacy unfold, and that kept all the parts. So that seems to be a workaround for this thing that sometimes you don't get all your parts from. Okay, so there's a couple workarounds. You can either select just the region again and project it, or you could use legacy unfold, best guess. So that's what I did in this case. So hit done, go to unfold, optimize, like that, and then we could do the same thing here. It's inherited that, so we'll just say optimize, which is just another way of saying relax. Okay, so we've renamed a few of these. Now let's unwrap the pelvis. So with this selected as an object, we'll say enter tool. Notice we're not getting all of those. Okay, so we'll say cancel. We'll go to here, delete the history, close this. Let's get it started again. Tools, UV. Okay, and we will enter the tool. Now we have all our menus back. We'll click there. By the way, if you don't want the full edge loop selected, then you just hold down, you click on one and then double click next to it, and it will select everything in between. So we'll add those as borders now. Okay, and we will say continue. And that's better. Like that, looks pretty good. Now notice we get a little bit of this is a little crooked on the one side. There's a little tension, so it could be unfolded or relaxed a little more, or optimized is the word here. So if we just click optimize, see how it changed shape a little bit, and notice it's still a little crooked up there, and we could just keep clicking that, or we could hold down shift again, and that brings this up, and we could say iterations. Maybe we want that to iterate 10 times. We'll say apply, and it'll be a little more aggressive. Okay, can't see much different anyway, but just know that you can do that. These are our arms and legs. Of course, we only need to do half, right? Click that one and that one. Okay, so add those as borders, hit continue, and good, that's what we wanted. Okay, we'll hit done there. Now let's do Okay, let's see how that goes. So add borders, continue. And that looks pretty good. Of course, it still needs it to be optimized a little more or relaxed a little more. So I'll just call that done, close that, and then maybe select this shell, which it won't let me. So I'll have to do it from out here and then optimize that. Okay, and here's where, okay, hold down shift and click there. Oh, we're doing 10 iterations. Why don't we do 100 iterations, say? Okay, and apply again till we get that jolted back out where it's straight. Okay, and select all these and just apply one more time. Okay, they're relaxed a little better. Oh, and now look, I forgot to put a boundary in here. Okay, so there's other tools. We could cut any place we want to, but we needed to cut somewhere there. So let's see, where is this edge going to be? If I select this edge, okay, that's there. Okay, that bottom one, and then I'm just going to say cut. Okay, that's a boundary. Then let's do it for the other one too. Down here. Maybe pick that one. Okay, and then say cut. Now we can tell that it's cut because it's bold. From here I'm going to select UV shell and select it from there. Okay, and then I'm going to go to optimize. Boom, hit it again. Well, okay, we're going to have to come back to that. We'll go to this one. Okay, it's not letting me. I got to go up here. Click there and then optimize that. Okay, that one's undone. Now this one. Oh boy, do I feel silly. I just discovered what it is. I just discovered why I could select it out here and not in there. I don't know if any of you, can any of you guess? Remember earlier I demonstrated back facing. So I had my selection mask on, or selection constraint. So if I turn that on or off, look, now I can select from in here. Oh my gosh, do I feel dumb. Now we can move these around. Right, let's see if we can tug on this, and then, you know what can happen is, right now we have a line there and a line there, and they're in line. And I'll bet you if I just move that out a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to select the shell. Now if I hit optimize, it works. Okay, so when it's because those 3 points were all in a straight line that it couldn't kind of jolt itself out of there. Okay, and here I've got groups. These are just dummy groups. Well, these nodes can be left behind if, let's say, you select the objects out of it and combine them into one object or things like that, and they get extracted from groups that way. You can be left with orphan nodes. So I'm just going to select those three and delete them. Oh look, we've got some other shader on there turned green. So if you see that happen, you can just apply a new shader. So I'm dragging down to the bottom where it says assign favorite material. I'll just use the original Lambert. Whoops, hello. Now, well, let's walk through one of these parts, and then it's going to be the same process for the rest of it. Okay, so let's ungroup. Whoops, select this, say ungroup. Unable to ungroup objects. Ungroup. Hello. Okay, well you can see it's not allowing me to ungroup, and that I suspect is because I deleted those orphan nodes, and it probably needed those nodes to sort it out. See, error line 1, unable to ungroup objects. So the way to back out of that, of course, is to hit Control Z to undo that, but there's something wrong here. in these objects, right? So we can either write out our Maya scene and read it back in, or we could just write out just this part of it as an OBJ to kind of clean it of that problem. Okay, so now by default, the plugin for exporting OBJs is not loaded. So settings, preferences, plugin manager. Okay, then we go down to OBJ export. I'd highly recommend clicking that so that it's loaded and auto loads. Okay, closing that. Now with these objects active, we'll go File, Export Selection. Okay, and from here we'll say, alright, go to OBJ. Now FBX is very handy. It will potentially save whatever's causing our problem because it holds a lot more. We like the OBJ now because it doesn't hold much. So OBJ export, and we'll just keep all that stuff on. We'll say export selection. Okay, OBJ export. Right here, files of type OBJ export, export selection. Okay, and now we'll delete what we've got here, and then we'll say file, import, and here it is, temp OBJ. We'll say import. Okay, there it is all back. Now let's see if we hit group. Now we should be able to ungroup. We're good. So whatever was messing that up, it's cleansed of it now. Let's do the UVs for this. So we're going to hide the rest. Okay, I'm going to uncheck the checker shader. We don't need that shader there all the time. Okay, so I'm going to say enter the tool. Notice we're not getting our buttons. That's okay. We'll just slide this over. There they are. Okay, so we'll say add those as borders. Okay, it's not critical that these be in this exact place, but they're good choices based on what you're going to see. So then we'll say continue. Take a look in our UV space. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Soften that up a bit, so let's hit optimize. Okay, so then in here we could always cut as well, right? So we could say, right, select those edges, select edge, boom, 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 like that. And then we could say cut and sew, and we'll just say cut and relax them a little bit more by using unfold optimize. Look, I have not symmetric on either side. Look, it looks a little different. So I think what I'll do is just cut these off. So I'm going to select that edge, Q to drop that tool. Get those, and I'll say cut, right? And then I'll select these. Right, notice that they're selecting on the other side there. And then I could say sew, right? And then I could always just select this shell again and optimize it. There. Now it did get a little bit rocked, but it's okay. Now it's symmetric. Okay, then at this point, we just want to go through and create UVs for the remainder, the other parts of the leg and arm, which is going to be the same process we just went through. Just try to put the seams places where you're least likely to see, or in corner edges. Now this is the ring right at the hip, and I'm creating borders right down here. Let's say add those as borders and continue. And this is what I'm after here. It's just putting it into a grid. So I'll say done. Now there's a new feature in Maya which I'm pretty excited about in their UVs, and that is the ability to get this relaxed into a rectangle. Okay, and once it's to this point, we can use this under optimize, we can say straighten UVs, and that gets it partly there. We're almost there. But we could use this optimize brush and kind of brush them until it's somewhat straight like this. And let's straighten it again. Get a little closer. Not necessarily better, huh? Straighten UVs. Okay, and this part that we like, we can pin that. So I'm going to select the UVs to this part that is how I want, and I will say to pin, pinning, pin. Okay, now up here, okay, this part I want to relax out. Okay, and now I'll say straighten that. Look at that, straighten doesn't seem to respect that, but move those over. We'll unpin all, and we'll select these, move them. Now let's try to straighten. Okay, and I'm just gonna try to relax the spacing inside. Hit straighten UVs again. Relax it again. Straighten UVs again, and I can get it into a rectangular shape. That works out pretty good. Now this is one area where Headless UV layout kind of has Maya beat, because you can have it relax right into a rectangle like this with the click of a button, which would be nice here, but at least you have the tools to get there. And here it's just a matter of getting it almost straight, and then, you know, running the optimizer over it as you saw me do, and then straighten, optimize, straighten, and you can get it ironed into place.